Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janaballabha Giridharadhari. Gopi Janaballabha Giridharadhari. Yashodanandana Praja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Praja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So that we're continuing to speak on the glories of the members of the Panchatattva. On the last class, we spoke about Srivas Thakur, And this evening we will speak something about Gadadhar Pandit. Alright, Gadadhar Pandit, member of the Panchatattva, very, very dear associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he is described as the internal potency of the Lord. This is Srivas Pandit represented the marginal potency. So Gadadhar Pandit is a manifestation of the internal potency. The Gora Gonadesh Dipika describes or identifies the different members or associates of Lord Chaitanya and who they are in Krishna's pastimes. So it is said that Gadadhar Pandit is a manifestation of both Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi. Lalita Sakhi is a very dearmost friend of Radharani, and Srimati Radharani is Vrindavan Ishwari. She is she's the one who is always in deep love for Krishna. So Gadadhar Pandit comes, we see Srimati Radharani, Lalita Sakhi, they come in the form of, they come in a male form. Why? Because 5,000 years ago, as gopis, they were not able to associate very easily with Lord Krishna. Society was very conservative 5,000 years ago. Young girls could not go and just go and talk to a young boy. So the gopis always wanted to be with Krishna, but they were very much restricted by the customs of the society. So therefore, when Lord Krishna came again 500 years ago, these gopis came in male forms so that they could associate constantly with Lord Krishna. Because Lord Krishna had come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and so the gopis also came in male forms and they could associate with him. And one person who wanted to be with Lord Chaitanya all the time was Gadadhar Pandit. He never liked to leave the association of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They went to school together, they were friends together. When Lord Chaitanya began having kirtan, we were describing how they were having the nocturnal kirtans every evening in the home of Srivas Pandit. So Gadadhar would also be there. And after Lord Chaitanya became, after going to Gaya and being initiated into the chanting of the holy name, he developed so much longing to be with Krishna. He was so much anxious. Well, he was always feeling the separation from Krishna. Because remember, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he has come in the mood of Srimati. You know, you make it too loud. It was fine as it was. You've made it so loud it's not comfortable anymore. I wish you wouldn't, just try to leave it. It's fine as it is. Don't make it too loud. So, 500 years ago, Lord Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to experience the mood of Srimati Radharani. And in the mood of Srimati Radharani, he's feeling the separation from Lord Krishna. On one occasion, when Lord Chaitanya was feeling that mood of separation, he asked to Gadadhar, he said to Gadadhar Pandit, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" And Gadadhar Pandit told him, he said, "Well, he's in your heart. He's in the heart of all living entities. He's in everyone's heart." But when Lord Chaitanya heard this, then Lord Chaitanya took his nails and began to claw at his heart. He wanted to open his flesh, rip open his flesh and open the heart to find Krishna. And seeing Lord Chaitanya use his hands and try to rip open his chest, Gadadhar took his hands and spoke to him. He spoke to him gently, telling him, don't worry, Lord Krishna will come just now. Just be patient. Don't do this. Don't tear your skin. Just be patient. Lord Krishna is certainly coming just now. So Mother Sachi, she was watching this situation and she greatly appreciated the intelligence of Gadadhar Pandit, that he was able to pacify the mind of her son, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mother Sachi herself, she felt powerless to do anything to help her son. But she saw Gadadhar dealing with Lord Chaitanya in this way, and she begged Gadadhar Pandit, you please stay with my son. Wherever he goes, please, you don't leave him. You always be with him. And Gadadhar really took these words to heart. This was just what Gadadhar wanted to hear, because he didn't want to go anywhere away from Lord Chaitanya. He always wanted to be with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, an important pastime concerning Gadadhar Pandit took place when Lord Chaitanya was calling the name Pundarik. Pundarik. And he told the devotees that there's a great devotee going to come to Mayapur. His name is Pundarik, and he is like my father. The devotees were all amazed. And who is this Pundarik? They did not know. So this Pundarik was actually Pundarik Vijanidhi, and he came there to Mayapur. Now Pundarik Vijanidhi, he was actually a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. He had been initiated by Madhavendra Puri. So he was a very exalted devotee. And he came to Mayapur, and Gadadhar was brought by Mukunda Datta. Mukunda Datta brought him to meet Pundarik. And Mukunda had told Gadadhar that this Pundarik is a very great devotee, a very, very exalted devotee. So Gadadhar naturally wanted to see this very exalted devotee, whom even Lord Chaitanya recognized, and whom he had told all the devotees that this great devotee is going to come to Navadvip soon. So the devotees were anxious to meet him, and Gadadhar also came with Mukunda to meet him. But when Gadadhar saw this Pundarik, he was not very much impressed, because he saw that Pundarik was actually portraying himself as a materialist. He was dressed in very fine clothes, and he had many ornaments and rings on his fingers and necklaces round his neck and other ornaments, and he had his hair nicely combed and lacquered, and he was sitting on a nice seat with many sherbets and numpkins in front of him, and then there were servants fanning him also, because Pundarik was a wealthy landowner. He had a nice estate, so he had servants, and his servants were fanning him and taking care of him in so many ways. And so Gadadhar came there. Gadadhar Pandit, he was a brahmachari, and he was renounced from his birth. He was very detached from material enjoyment. And when he saw this Gadadhar Pandit in this way, then he thought, he cannot be a very great devotee. He must be a materialist. But Mukunda could understand the thinking of Gadadhar. He knew this Gadadhar, he's a brahmachari, and he's attached to renunciation. So Mukunda began to recite a famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the, I think it's the 3rd canto, where the glories of Lord Krishna is described, that who could be more merciful than Lord Krishna, who accepted Putana as his nurse. Putana, the sister of Bakasura. Putana, she came with poison on her breast to kill Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna accepted Putana as his mother. Lord Krishna didn't think that Putana's coming to kill me. He thought she's coming to offer her breast to me. So Lord Krishna, of course, accepted her breast and took out her life air and liberated her and sent her back to Godhead. And she became one of his nurses in the spiritual world. So the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam says, who could be more merciful than Lord Krishna, that he could accept somebody who comes to kill him as his nurse and sends her back to Godhead. So when Mukunda sang this verse, then Pundarik Vijayanidhi's bhava for Lord Krishna was immediately awakened. And Pundarik, when his bhava was awakened to this extent that he fell off his seat and he knocked over everything in front of him, all the table and all the cups and all the different dishes, they were all knocked everywhere, and he rolled on the floor and shed tears, and the whole floor became soaked, just as we saw today. This evening there was a downpour, a thunderstorm, and all the roads became flooded. In the same way, when Pundarik Vijayanidhi awakened his bhava for Lord Krishna, the whole floor became flooded with water from the tears from his eyes and the perspiration from his body, and all his hair stood on end, and he rolled on the ground, and he remained in this condition for hours. So when Gadadhar Pandit witnessed this behavior, he understood that, oh, this Pundarik is really a great devotee. I have offended him. So Gadadhar Pandit felt very guilty that he had not understood the exalted position of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And he went away from that meeting feeling very bad, feeling very fallen. And he certainly repented his thinking that I was so foolish, I was looking only at his external appearance. And I was thinking he is a materialist, but he's actually a great devotee. So Gadadhar considered in his mind what he could do to make up for this offense. So he considered it would be appropriate for him that if he could accept Pundarik Vijayanidhi as his spiritual master and take initiation from him. So Pundarik Vijayanidhi, Gadadhar first of all went to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he asked Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will it be all right if I take initiation from Pundarik Vijayanidhi? Will you give your approval? Can you bless me? And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, very nice, this is very good. He's a very wonderful devotee. He will be a good spiritual master for you. And then Gadadhar then talked to Mukunda and told Mukunda, and Mukunda said, I will talk to Pundarik Vijayanidhi and ask him if he will accept you. So Mukunda approached Pundarik Vijayanidhi and said, Gadadhar would like to accept initiation from you. And Pundarik Vijayanidhi said, "Oh, I am very fortunate to have such a nice disciple. That Krishna is very kind on me to send me such a nice devotee to be my disciple." And then on a suitable date, Gadadhar was initiated by Pundarik Vijayanidhi. So it was very appropriate because Guru Ganadesh Dipika describes Pundarik Vijayanidhi to be non-different from Maharaj Vrishabandhu. Maharaj Vrishabandhu, of course, is the father of Srimati Radharani in Varsana. And Gadadhar, we said, is a manifestation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi. So Srimati Radharani, the daughter of Maharaj Vrishabhanu. So Gadadhar took initiation from Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And in this way Gadadhar was connected in the parampara. And Gadadhar went on to accept many disciples himself. What happened was, of course, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. And when he took sannyas, Lord Nityananda went to Katwa, and he also brought Mukunda with him, and Gadadhar also came. So Gadadhar was there to witness Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas. And after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, then Gadadhar also went with Lord Chaitanya. First they went to Shantipur, to the home of Advaita Acharya. Mother Sachi came there. And then Lord Chaitanya went to Puri. And Gadadhar also went with Lord Chaitanya. And Gadadhar followed Lord Chaitanya to Puri. So while they were in Puri, Lord Chaitanya was always associating with Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit would recite Srimad Bhagavatam daily to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya would come to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Especially Lord Chaitanya was very fond of hearing about the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and also Prahlad Maharaj. These two pastimes were the favorite of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he would hear them from the mouth of Gadadhar Pandit. Now, Lord Chaitanya, he also gave a deity to Gadadhar to worship. One day, Lord Chaitanya uncovered a deity of Gopinath. He actually discovered the deity. It was buried in the sands at Jagannath Puri. And Lord Chaitanya entrusted the worship of this deity to Gadadhar Pandit. So Gadadhar Pandit was given the responsibility to worship the deity of Tota Gopinath. And when we go to Puri, this is one place that we always go to see, Tota Gopinath, that Lord Chaitanya had given the worship there to Gadadhar Pandit. And he had asked Gadadhar Pandit to maintain the worship of the Gopinath deity. Now it's a very interesting deity because it is said that when Gadadhar became elderly man, he was not able to put the crowns on the head of the deity because the deity was tall. And it was a strain for Gadadhar in his old age to reach up to decorate Gopinath. So it is said that from that time on, Gopinath sat down. So we see the deity of Gopinath, he's kneeling, he's sitting cross-legged. We don't see Krishna, we don't see deities of Krishna in that position any other place. It's a very special deity. So it is said that the Gopinath deity sat in this position to facilitate the service of Gadadhar Pandit. So Gadadhar Pandit was living there in Jagannath Puri serving Lord Chaitanya, and Gadadhar had vowed he did not take sannyas officially, but he took what was called Kshetra sannyas. Kshetra sannyas is a type of vow where one promises not to leave the holy Dham. Gadadhar was living there in Jagannath Puri, and he vowed that he would never leave there. So in this way he was a Kshetra sannyasi. But then, after he'd been there for some time, Lord Chaitanya decided he wanted to go to Vrindavan, and he wanted to go to South India and look for his brother and do different things. And Gadadhar also wanted to go. And he followed Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya was not pleased. Although he was pleased within his mind that he appreciated that Gadadhar loves so much, he loves me so much, he's so attached to me, he wants to follow me. But at the same time, Lord Chaitanya did not want Gadadhar to follow him. Lord Chaitanya wanted to go alone. And Lord Chaitanya requested Gadadhar to go back because he said, "You've made a vow to stay in the holy Dham. You have taken Kshetra sannyas." But Gadadhar said, "Let my vow go to hell." He said, by seeing your lotus feet, by seeing your lotus feet, I am getting the benefit of being in the holy Dham. The holy Dham is where your lotus feet are. But then Lord Chaitanya said, "But you've also vowed to worship Gopinath." He said, "It is not good that you're giving up your two vows. You vowed to stay in the holy Dham and you vowed to worship Gopinath. It is not good that you're breaking your promise just simply to serve me. This is not what I want." The example is given, however, just like during the battle of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna broke his own promise for the pleasure of to keep his devotees' promise. Lord Krishna broke his promise. During the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was fighting with Bhima. And Bhima had vowed that either I will kill Arjuna or Krishna will break his promise. Krishna had promised he would not fight. So either I will kill Arjuna or Krishna will have to break his promise to save him. So Bhima was coming. At one point, Arjuna's chariot got stuck and the wheel came off. And he was in trouble, and Bhima was coming to kill Arjuna. Bhishma was coming to kill Arjuna, and Krishna, seeing the danger for Arjuna, Krishna picked up the chariot wheel and rushed towards grandfather Bhishma. And then Bhishma was satisfied because he saw, now Krishna has broken his promise. So Krishna broke his promise so that Bhishma could keep his promise. So Lord Chaitanya, he also wanted to go to outside. He wanted to go and visit South India and find his brother, and he wanted to go to Vrindavan. He didn't want Gadadhar to come. But Gadadhar, he'd made these promises that he would worship the deity, he would stay there in the Dham. But Gadadhar was going to break his promise. So he thought, it's more important to follow Lord Chaitanya than to keep my promise. My promise is not as important as service to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Lord Chaitanya didn't want Gadadhar to come. He wanted Gadadhar to stay there in Puri. But Gadadhar was so attached that he followed Lord Chaitanya as far as Cuttack. They walked all the way out of Puri, past Bhubaneswar. They came to Cuttack. And Gadadhar was still following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then became mildly angry at Gadadhar and told him that you go back, you stay here. You've broken your promise now. You have already come so far. You have broken your promise. But he said, I'm not taking you with, you cannot come with me. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got in a boat and crossed and left Gadadhar. And when Lord Chaitanya did this, then Gadadhar fainted. He could not tolerate the separation from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Gadadhar had so much love for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could not consider how he could maintain his life without the association of Lord Chaitanya. So he had this very strong love, attachment for him. Anyway, Gadadhar remained there, went back to Puri. He stayed in Jagannath Puri for the rest of his life. In his old age, he was still reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and the tears would come from his eyes, and the tears would rub the ink of the Bhagavatam. It is said that Srinivasacharya came there to learn Srimad Bhagavatam from him, and Gadadhar said that I'm not able to teach you because the tears from my eyes has smudged the ink. I will have to get another copy of Bhagavatam. Because in those days there were no printed books, everything was handwritten. So Gadadhar said, you want to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from me, you have to go back to Navadvip and find somebody to write a Bhagavatam, to write out the Bhagavatam for me, and then bring it, then I can read to you. So in this way Gadadhar Pandit was showing his intense love for Krishna. Gadadhar Pandit remained there in Jagannath Puri till the departure of his body. And his line of disciplic succession is there. There are many great disciples. It is said Mamu Thakur was the first disciple of Gadadhar. After he departed, Mamu Thakur took over the worship of the Gopinath deity. Of course, the Gopinath deity is still being worshipped there today, and they welcome all the devotees. It is said also, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world, that he disappeared into the Tota Gopinath deity. Some people say Lord Chaitanya entered into the Jagannath deity, but other people say he entered into Tota Gopinath deity. And there's even a golden line, which is like a crack on the leg of Gopinath, and it is said that is the point where Lord Chaitanya entered into the Gopinath deity. So we can understand how much Lord Chaitanya had love for the Gopinath deity and how much he had love for Gadadhar Pandit. So Gadadhar Pandit, the very dear associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, are there any questions? Anybody wants to ask anything tonight? Because 8:15 we're supposed to have also Arti. But if you have a question or anything more we can add about Gadadhar Pandit.
Maharaj, how do we understand, philosophically, when we say Gadadhar Pandit is an expansion or incarnation or what of Radharani? I mean, how do we actually understand this?
Well, we said he's, according to the I was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita today, and in the purport there, Prabhupada quotes, he says, Swarup Damodar describes that Gadadhar Pandit was the expansion of both Srimati Radharani and Lalita Saki. He was a combined form. So how do we understand this? That Uh, the mood of Srimati Radharani and the mood of Gadadhar. Yes, well, there will be some difference there, but at the same time it is said Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to also associate with Gadadhar, because by associating with Gadadhar, then he can learn more about what is the mood of Srimati Radharani. And Lord Chaitanya wants to cultivate that mood of Radharani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but he has come to experience the pleasure of Srimati Radharani, because Krishna knows that whatever pleasure he gets, Srimati Radharani gets more pleasure. That Srimati Radharani enjoys the beauty of Krishna, and she enjoys also Krishna's love which he has for Radharani. That she loves Krishna herself, but she also enjoys seeing Krishna love her. So this particular mood of Radharani, how she enjoys her loving dealings with Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to experience that. And that is why he associated with Gadadhar Pandit so much, because he could learn more of this Radha Bhav from Srimati Radharani. And then, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also associated with Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai, because Swarup Damodar Goswami is considered the expansion of Lalita and Ramananda Rai of Vishaka. So those two gopis come, and they're the two dearmost friends of Srimati Radharani. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was associating with Gadadhar Pandit, and at the same time he was also associating with Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai. And this way he can cultivate more what is the mood of Srimati Radharani. Is there any difference between Gadadhar's mood and Srimati Radharani's mood? Well, of course, Gadadhar came in the male form, so he's able to associate directly with Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, and Gadadhar is able to associate directly with him. But when Krishna came 5,000 years ago, Srimati Radharani had to be very careful. She could not so freely go to be with Krishna. She had to be very careful. There were so many different plans and different games, different intrigues, arrangements were made so that Krishna and Radharani could be together, because it was not considered proper. But Gadadhar comes and he can be with Lord Chaitanya all the time. And he was. Right, all the time. They were having kirtan all the time. Gadadhar would be there. Lord Chaitanya went to take sannyas. Gadadhar also went. Lord Chaitanya went to Puri. Gadadhar also went. He followed. He could not leave Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Srimati Radharani, she could not go. Krishna left Vrindavan. She could not go. Of course, the Acharyas say Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. He hid himself in the hearts of the gopis. So there are some differences, yeah. But there are some similarities, there are some differences. Yes, some of them, Maharaji. Give the microphone. It's the worship of
Gadadhar.
The worship of the worship of Gaur Gadadhar is even higher than the worship of Radha and Krishna. So don't try to do it. It's very difficult to properly worship Radha and Krishna, and it's even more difficult to worship Gaur Gadadhar. Unless you're a very elevated devotee, you're not encouraged to worship Gaur Gadadhar. We do see deities of Gaur Gadadhar, like Vaninath, the deities are there in, what's that place? The place, Champakahati, the temple there, the Gaur Gadadhar deities are there. They were worshipped by Vaninath, Vaninath. He was an associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these deities are 500 years old. They're being worshipped there. There's also Gaur Gadadhar deities at the Yoga Pith. The deities were originally worshipped by the wife of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and the deities were installed later at the Yoga Pith. But these are very special devotees, special situation. Prabhupada never introduced us to the worship of Gaur Gadadhar, and I've heard from other devotees, the Bengali devotees, they say that Gaur Gadadhar worship is higher, the highest, even higher than the worship of Radha and Krishna, because we have to actually understand properly the mood in worshipping Gaur Gadadhar. Radha and Krishna, we can see who they are, but Gaur Gadadhar, we don't actually fully appreciate their identities. So therefore, it's even higher than worship of Radha and Krishna. Okay. So now we'll have Arti. Tomorrow morning we will be speaking on Advaita Acharya.